are to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You are to be in pictures.
Hello and welcome to Deep Dive Movie Reviews with my friend Steve Hackman and myself, James Marsh. This episode we are reviewing Rian Johnson's Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Hey, but before we do, if you haven't already subscribed to Deep Dive Movie Reviews, it'd be a great favor to us if you went ahead and did that. While you're there, go ahead and just tap that little bell next to it. And that way you're notified every time we drop a new video. And just as a reminder, Deep Dive Movie Reviews does contain spoilers, so you have been warned. James, let's talk Knives Out, a glass onion mystery. All right, James, let's talk Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
Okay, so yeah, this is the second film. It's not a sequel to Knives Out, but it is just another Benoit Blanc mystery. And I love the notion that they are going to do this, that this is essentially Rian Johnson's Hercule Poirot series,
Yes.
if you like, where the stories aren't sequels. It isn't a series, but they are just individual mysteries, individual sort of murders. And right off the bat, that's what I responded to the most, is that this is a very different film to Knives Out in many, many ways. I think that the mood of it, the tone of it is a little bit lighter. It's a little more exotic. Obviously, it's set out in Greece rather than in New England or wherever Knives Out was set. And so you immediately get a very sort of different feel, because much like the Agatha Christie stories, other than Benoit Blanc, the entire cast is different. These are all new characters with all new plans and motives and a whole new murder. And that's what I love about Agatha Christie stories, and to see that carried over here, that's what I love about this one. So just to set up the mystery very quickly, Benoit Blanc is one of many people who have been invited by sort of Elon Musk-esque billionaire Miles Bron, played by Edward Norton, to come to his secluded Greek island for, is it his birthday? I think it's his birthday.
I think it's his birthday, yes. But we're told it's also a yearly celebration. These guys get together on a yearly basis because they go back and they're friends. They bring the band back together again, like once a year. Right.
And then the idea is there's going to be a sort of a murdery mystery party. There's going to be an element to it where they are going to solve his murder, and we think it's a party. It comes in the invitation. It's like, you come, we'll get together, have a good time, and you will solve my murder. So is this going to be some sort of high concept sort of suicide thing, big sort of performance suicide, or is it going to be just a playful mystery, or is something really afoot? Now, the initial mystery is that Benoit Blanc immediately sort of seems to be the odd man out, in as much as that he doesn't know any of these people, and that he's been sort of invited along somewhat erroneously. But as the plot develops, we realize that not everything is as it appears to be.
James, we watched this as a family on Christmas night, and it couldn't have been a better film to watch on Christmas, because it was just, not that it's a Christmas movie per se, but it just has all the elements that I remember as a kid growing up of the type of movie they would show on Christmas or on a big holiday, because it's very grand, it's very epic, and it has an ensemble cast of who's who. So it ticks all the boxes of becoming, I think, a future almost holiday rewatch classic. Daniel Craig with a Southern drawl, who would have thought that was possible, or that it would work? And yet he pulls it off brilliantly. And like you said, now Rian Johnson has his Hercule Poirot. He has his Miss Jane Marple, his super sleuth. And, instead of it being British, that's the great irony, is he's British in real life, but he's an American with a Southern drawl, and he's got that whole thing going. And it's just a delight. These Rian Johnson, he writes them, he directs them. They're so intertwined and fun and subversive. And, like I mentioned in our previous top 10 review, there's social commentary in this, because you get to hate the Elon Musk billionaire and see him get his just desserts. You get to hate that Kim Kardashian celebrity who's just full of themselves, the politician, the men's right advocate who's this YouTuber that everybody just despises these guys. They're so popular, they got so many followers, and deep down we're all like, this person's such a jerk. And then to watch Benoit Blanc just kind of one by one, take them all down and affirm goodness in the Andy character played by Janelle
Monáe.
Janelle Monáe. So back to you. It was delightful.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly agree. I mean, I think the ensemble cast sort of really kind of paid off. You've got all of these kind of larger than life characters who are, increasingly ridiculous. You realize very quickly that Miles and his friends are all terrible people.
Yeah.
They're all very, very self-satisfied. They champion each other in a way that nobody else will, and they're elevating each other and giving each other a sense of purpose and importance, which you realize that if you take a step away, that they're all completely idiotic, nonsensical dullards that unfortunately sort of social media and things like that have are tools to elevate such sort of loud, larger than life personalities in a way that when you see them up close, you're like, okay, these are absolutely disgusting people. There are some wonderful touches like Dave Bautista's men's rights activist who has this gun that he carries with him everywhere. He even has a holster for it on his Speedo, which I thought was a great touch. The increasingly ubiquitous Jessica Henwick, I thought was brilliant here, who I think we're just becoming fans of her in absolutely anything that she shows up in at the moment. And she showed up in Matrix Resurrections and turned out to be the best thing in it. And a number of other things besides that. She's fantastic here as just sort of the mousy, lowly assistant who has far more going on.
Yeah, I was very happy to see Jessica Henwick's character there. Like you said, we've become fans of her. She was in The Gray Man, which we didn't think was a great movie, but it was nice to see her stature is definitely, her star is on the rise, so to speak. And
absolutely.
Look forward to seeing her in future. She's still kind of the B-lister among all this A-list celebrities, but I see her in the years to come. She will be the headlining in an ensemble cast like this in the future.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. While we're talking about that is the inclusion of Noah Segan, who plays Derol, who's kind of just the guy who happens to be there that isn't involved in anything. The kind of bum who's just sort of sitting around. He's like
smoking
an old friend.
Weed,
Because that guy, Noah Segan, the actor, is a really old friend of Rian Johnson's, and has been in every single one of Rian Johnson's movies so far. So he's in Knives Out. He's one of the cops who come to investigate the murder along with Rian Johnson. He even managed to find a part from him as I think an X-Wing pilot in The Last Jedi. He has a much bigger part in Looper. He plays Kid Blue, who is a very sort of notable standout character there, and all the way back to Brick. And it's just great when you see sort of a friendship like that endure. The fact that Rian Johnson's now become so big time and that he can literally populate an entire cast like this with seemingly whomever he wants, and that he'll still be like, yeah, but I've got to give my buddy Noah, a little role in all of this. And that for me is great to see.
I think Adam Sandler is another one of those kind of guys who's able to populate movies with old friends and familiar faces from his history. And there's kind of a esprit de corps going of familiar faces in his films as well. So it's always good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate what you said about this becoming kind of like a holiday tradition, this becoming kind of a Christmas movie, if you like. I definitely grew up with these kind of movies as well. My mum was she's just a big murder mystery fan, particularly Agatha Christie. She pushed those onto me at a young age. And there was always Agatha Christie on TV, whether it was one of the Peter Ustinov movies or whether it was the BBC or the British TV shows, the David Suchet, Hercule Poirot, or the Joan Hickson as Miss Marple, or whomever it was. They were always on, and so I grew to know those stories incredibly well, and the format, and so you'd get these kind of feature length mysteries appearing on TV, and they'd be star-studded. Particularly, I mean, the old Peter Ustinov movies in particular were so ridiculously stacked, and that they did just become something of a kind of holiday tradition. That's just when they would show. It would be on sort of Boxing Day early evening or something like that, and it just became ingrained as part and parcel with all of the other little Christmas traditions. And I just love that he's continuing to do that. I actually sat down this Christmas to read Hercule Poirot's Christmas, which is, an Agatha Christie novel that I hadn't read before. Yeah. And I mean this as the greatest compliment in the world, but the setup of that novel is uncannily similar to Knives Out in many, many ways. And Johnson's been very sort of open about drawing from all of these influences. But that is about an incredibly sort of large and estranged wealthy family who congregate together at the house of their very wealthy, aging, ill patriarch, in this case for Christmas rather than for his, I think it's his birthday in Knives Out, only for him to then be murdered behind closed doors in his study. There is even a young Hispanic female character thrown into the mix as well, as there is in Knives Out. So I was like, whoa, this is incredibly similar, but in the best possible way. And it just goes to show just how well Rian Johnson knows this material.
It brought back. Are you familiar with the film Murder by Death, Neil Simon's film with Truman Capote?
No, I'm familiar of it, but it's one of those ones that I've never actually got around to watching.
Watching this Glass Onion just brought me back to that film, and I thought I've got to rewatch Murder by Death. I always enjoyed it as a kid growing up, and it has a very similar storyline to Knives Out. It's got the ensemble cast of who's who. It's got Truman Capote as the person who invites them all to witness his death. It's got Sir Alec Guinness. It's got Peter Falk. It's got Maggie Smith when she was not.
Wonderful.
We've grown accustomed to her playing the aging grandmother on Downton Abbey or Harry Potter, and forget she was the sultry glamour star that shows up in Murder by Death. So to see that aspect, Peter Sellers is in it, but it has this whole dynamic of a staged death and them trying to figure it out. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm trying to think now if it holds up. I want to rewatch it.
It is one of the ones that seems to come up in conversation again and again when people talk about this kind of film. I think the film Clue as well is one that I don't think I have seen, or if I have, I've forgotten most of it, with Tim Curry, which is obviously based on the board game.
Right.
Now as a Brit, that board game is called Cluedo. It's not called Clue, but it's the same thing. So those are probably two that I should probably seek out right now to watch, because I hear they're very good.
Yeah, they're very good. They're very good. I think I want to talk about Edward Norton. I love Edward Norton. I've loved his career. The guy just seems to always just hit it out of the park. Ever since Primal Fear, I think I saw in the 90s in American History X, he never quite peaked. He's just always done, did the score with Marlon Brando. He's in Marlon Brando's last film. And I just love how this guy can come into a movie like this. And I don't know how you felt. Just the look on his face when Benoit Blanc solves his murder mystery, like in the first 15 minutes. Yeah. And just the look that Edward Norton gives. Like, I have spent a year planning this murder mystery party and you solved it in 15 minutes, you bastard. It was just the look of sheer contempt that he conveyed. I just love that they cast Edward Norton in this film because he plays such a great Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, I thought it was some great casting because, I think for me, his best role was in Fight Club. And the character in Fight Club is a character driven by contempt for exactly these kind of people and this kind of society, that he becomes a kind of sort of self-propelled terrorist, to rip down exactly these. And the way that he's sort of coming out with words that don't mean anything. I remember the first time he says it, when he's like, let's come out and like inbreathe the air or something like that. And I'm like, really? Did he just... And then you realize that it's a thing and that he's actually just coming out with all of these completely made up words. I thought it was wonderful. Yeah, perfect casting. Yeah. I think he has a reputation in Hollywood for being a bit difficult, and I think that's why he's never quite had, the star career that he wants. I think he's an actor that demands more control behind the scenes than I think most productions are willing to give him, and I think unfortunately that has been a bit of a problem. I actually really like his Incredible Hulk, which you remember, is technically part of the MCU, but everybody just kind of sort of
poo-poos it,
brushes that one under the carpet and goes, "Oh no, Mark Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo." But I actually kind of like that one. It was kind of fun back when before they really knew what the MCU was going to be, and I thought it was good. But by all accounts, yeah, he just wanted a little more creative control than Kevin Feige and Marvel wanted to give him. So they were like, let's just recast him. I absolutely love him. I think he's great in everything, and I think he's perfect here as just a prize idiot. Yeah, it's tricky because on the one hand, it's like, yes, we could dig into all the little plot holes and all the little reveals, but in a way, I don't really want to, and I don't think it necessarily would fuel our conversation too much more. I mean, obviously, there are sort of huge plot twists. One that comes about a third of the way or halfway through, where you realize that nothing and not even everybody that we have been introduced to is who they claim to be. But I think that's kind of part of the fun. That you are sort of part of you are involved in part of the mystery as well as you kind of go along.
Yeah, I didn't want it to end. Some movies when I saw the running time, I think it runs at nearly 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's long.
And it's a long film. And I thought, Christmas night, are we going to watch a 2.5 hour film? And never for a moment did I think, oh my God, this is long. Or if anything, the family was amazed that I was still awake, because I tend to go to bed early, and it's not unknown for me to especially say goodnight everybody and leave and catch the rest of the movie the next morning or something, because I just fall asleep. I stayed awake this whole movie. I was riveted on this film, and they were all joking. It must have been a good film if Steve stayed awake the whole time on after having a few glasses of holiday wine and a full belly. So yeah, it was that kind of film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it is one of those movies where it's just about the characters and the interactions of the characters, and that you feel included within that. Yeah. And you don't want the party to end, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's testament to the story that in a way it's not really the mystery that's keeping you there. It is the performance, it is their interactions. You are just completely sort of absorbed in the setting, that it's almost kind of irrelevant by the end. Who's the murderer, or who even died, or who's the murderer, or what actually went down. I don't think that that's necessarily what you take away from it, but rather it's just the time that you spent with the characters and the ridiculous situations that they get themselves into. Not least setting the Mona Lisa on fire. Which I think is just so ridiculous that it's genius.
The humor in this is just incredible. You mentioned the Mona Lisa on fire, but even at the beginning, when each one gets their invitation to this island, not by a letter, but by a puzzle box that they've got to figure out, that's elaborate. And it's showing the different people being able to solve the elaborateness of this puzzle box. But you see the Andy character, we find out later is actually the sister. And so she's not familiar with this type of game playing. She just takes a hammer and busts the thing open,
just smashes it open.
I was going to say though, even though a lot of there's a lot of funny and weird interactions between characters, the twists that occur throughout this film never feel convoluted or completely out of place, where you think, oh no way, or they're really they jumped the shark on that decision, or everything just feels like, oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah, like you're on a journey. And I feel like Rian Johnson's been able to create a film where you're one of the guests who's been invited to this island. You are one of the, you are immersed. You have received your invitation, and now you get to join this ensemble in solving this mystery. And to sit down for 2.5 hours and enter this world was just a lot of fun, and I can highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it almost feels when you talk about it like that it's been perhaps underwritten, or it's been kind of sort of lazily put together, that it feels loose and or improvised, but it couldn't be further from that. Everything has been very carefully laid in a specific place and in a specific order, so that these revelations occur, and they seem to occur naturally and loosely and organically and what have you, but it is all just very, very intricately woven pieces of a very complicated puzzle. But it is testament to Johnson and to the cast that the way that it all unfolds feels so natural, feels so effortless, and you're just like, oh, okay, no, you're actually in the hands of someone who knows exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, when you see written and directed by Rian Johnson, you know, okay, this is his baby, this is his vehicle. And so I would love to be part of or I would love to be a fly on the wall, the process he uses to map out this plot, because there has to be sticky notes and things pointed. There's got to be a whole wall in his office where, you know, and he's got to have other eyes looking at this going, where's the holes? Where's the things that don't work? How do we fix this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just watching an interview with him the other day. He was interviewing and being interviewed by Joe Kosinski, the director of Top Gun Maverick. They were doing one of these sort of directors on directors things. Right. I think Variety put them together or someone. And he was saying that with these kind of stories that it's all structure, and that he starts with the structure, and that he doesn't actually sit down and write the script per se until the very, very end. And it's all about positioning all the different sort of story beats and all the different sort of interwoven pieces of the puzzle, if you like. Mm-hmm. And he kind of builds it out almost like an architect would design a building. And only then, once everything is in place, will he sit down and as he put it, write the words.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because the words wouldn't be as important. You just got to know where are things going to connect, and then you can fill in the dialogue. Yeah,
and the purpose of each scene and the position of each scene and each revelation and what have you is far more important than specifically the dialogue. And then the dialogue will come in right at the end, just in order to achieve that purpose of that particular moment. It's a fascinating way of writing. It almost feels kind of counterintuitive. You're almost writing sort of backwards in the dark kind of thing.
Right.
But I think for this kind of story, it's really what you need in order to make it all work.
It works. And it's delightful to see Daniel Craig not get as stereotyped into his 007 role, because that's been kind of a struggle that former actors playing 007 have fallen into. Sean Connery was able to overcome it. Roger Moore, a little less so. But, you know, watching Daniel Craig really lean into the opposite of 007 is it's fun to watch this career turn for him.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful. And I know that Netflix has already sort of greenlit another one. I think that the original deal was for 2 for a ridiculous amount of money. But I would love just to see this run and run, assuming that Johnson can keep coming up with, you know, good ideas and proper scripts. You know, you'd hate to see them run it into the ground and it become ridiculous.
No.
But at the same time, you know, it's a formula that works, and if you can keep making them pay off the way that this and Knives Out before it do, long may it continue, I say.
Well, James, as we draw to a close, we're going to need an instrument here. It's how many glass onions?
Sure. Well, why not? Or puzzle boxes, or or what have you. I think that makes perfect sense.
How many destroyed Mona Lisas?
Yeah, how many burning Mona Lisas? Which I think is just fabulous. If you're going to get your revenge on somebody, it's by putting them in the hole for a Mona Lisa.
You know, let me just say too, another thing that makes this film shine is just the little moments of inserting something at the beginning where he says, I want to be known. When the Mona Lisa is mentioned, I want to be mentioned alongside of it. And the way they connect that dot at the end, it's like,
you always will be.
You always will be.
Yeah, that was kind of genius.
It's like Elon Musk with Twitter.
Yeah. Nobody will separate those two names ever again.
Well, James, I'm going to start because I named this as one of my top 10 films of the year, and I'm giving it 4.5 glass onions, burning Mona Lisas, puzzle boxes out of 5. And if you press me, I could probably just say I'd give it the full 5, because I just thought, as for what this film is, as a ensemble piece, murder mystery by a new Hercule Poirot style character, modeled in the footsteps of an Agatha Christie, this just nails it. It is perfectly done for what it sets out to do. And so I think I'm going to revisit my Letterboxd score 4.5, because again, sometimes I'm just hesitant to give a 5, but I think one of the things you've taught me is give it a 5 if you just love it, and it's a good movie. And it's so for me, what it does, and for all the reasons I've given, this is a 5.
There
And
you
I'll
go.
leave it at that.
Okay, I mean, this is a film I can't wait to rewatch. Actually, I only watched it like a week ago, and I've already found myself hovering over the button on Netflix, almost wanting to like just watch it again, because I feel that there's so much that's going to pay off the second time once you kind of know where it's headed.
I'm the same way. I'm looking forward to a rewatch.
And I was hoping to get a second viewing in ahead of our conversation, but unfortunately I didn't. But I know I have the place to myself this evening, and so I might well be doing that tonight, because where I'm sitting right now is at 4. I don't do halves, as we know.
Yeah.
So where I'm sitting right now is a rock solid, glimmering, glistening, burning 4 Mona Lisa's glass onions puzzle boxes out of 5.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be at all surprised, because this is so in my wheelhouse. I wouldn't be at all surprised if I can find in there somewhere the justification just to nudge it up that little bit. So, but I think it will require a second viewing. But that's not to take anything away from it. It's absolutely great. It's a riot. It's so much fun to watch, and it is a genuinely sort of absorbing mystery. So, well done.
Not to go off tangent, but right here at the end, you didn't mention, among all your plethora of Peter Ustinov past Agatha Christie, you didn't mention Kenneth Branagh's reinterpretations. Do you like those? And I don't think we've reviewed them. So
we haven't. I think they are fine, particularly Murder on the Orient Express. My issue with both of them is that they change the stories a bit, and I'm quite familiar with the stories, and they do change them a little bit. And I know that there's a third one in the mix that I think is supposed to be coming out next year, called Murder in Venice or Mystery in Venice, which isn't the title of an Agatha Christie story, and is an adaptation of Halloween Party, the novel Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, which I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with the novel Halloween Party, although it is an Agatha Christie novel. It is a Hercule Poirot mystery. And they have assembled another huge cast, including, not least, Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Dornan and Kelly Riley and Jude Hill, who I think is the little lad from Belfast as well. So there's quite a Tina Fey, quite a cast. So
nice.
I have no doubt that that's going to be lots and lots of fun. So far, though, they just haven't quite reached the heights of what Rian Johnson is doing, and it's as simple as that.
No, I agree. I enjoyed them, particularly Murder on the Orient Express, but it didn't leave me with that same giddy feel that I feel at the end of a Benoit Blanc mystery. But that's what James and I think about the newest Rian Johnson, Knives Out. In fact, he doesn't like it being referred to as a Knives Out mystery. I saw in an interview, he says he understands why they're marketing it that way, so people are connecting it, but he would rather just stand alone Glass Onion. But that's what we think about Glass Onion. What are your thoughts? We'd love to enter in a conversation with you about it. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment boxes below. James?
That's right. Let us know how you feel about Agatha Christie and Agatha Christie adaptations. Who's your favorite incarnation of Hercule Poirot or Miss Marple or whomever? Which is your favorite screen adaptation of one of her books? And do you think that, or do you agree with us that Rian Johnson is really nailing this kind of murder mystery? And if there are any other films of this ilk, in addition to like Murder by Death or Clue, that you think that we would enjoy, please let me know.
Until next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit.